Introduction. At the start of the year, a simple idea came to me. What if I called this the year of the ladder? It sounded playful, like a symbol of progress or a quiet wish for promotion. I mentioned it to a few friends and family members, and they mostly responded with mild amusement or polite curiosity. Still, the idea lingered. Then, on a friend's birthday, I did something unusual. I placed a small toy ladder on her cake. It was meant to be light-hearted, but it carried a quiet message. May this be a year of rising higher. She liked the idea. That little ladder eventually came back home with us and found its place on our kitchen counter, right above the fruit bowl, just sitting there, visible every day. What happened next was completely unexpected. Subtle changes began to unfold. Oddly enough, ladders began showing up at just the right times. Then a major storm hit, bringing even more ladders into our world. Repair workers, tradespeople, and electricians all working around our home. All the work was done for free, because of insurance. Was this just a string of coincidences? Or was something unseen responding to our quiet intentions? Could a simple object hold the power to focus energy, attract change, or open hidden doors? And then, money manifested. That experiment became the heart of my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. In those pages, I opened the door into the fascinating world of manifestation, exploring how people throughout history have harnessed their imagination to bring about desired realities. I set out to study the old and new teachers of manifestation, diving into the profound wisdom and timeless principles of 5 influential masters: Thomas Troward, Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, and Eckhart Tolle. Through their teachings, we learned how a simple visual anchor, a miniature ladder paired with a $50 note, could prime our attention, shift our expectations, and train our mind to tune into opportunity. From a private practice to a global movement. Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder was about what happens when you change your focus. It was an intimate practice designed for your own kitchen counter. But after that book went out into the world, a much bigger, far more inspiring question emerged. What happens when thousands of us use the exact same symbol at the exact same time? That is where this book begins. We are taking the foundation from the first experiment and expanding it into a collective experience. The ladder on your counter is no longer just a private anchor for your personal goals. It is your personal node in a global network. Welcome to Worldwide Awareness, the toy ladder that connects us. It's time to discover what happens when we stop climbing in isolation and realize we were never meant to do this alone. Tony Egar. Chapter 1. The ladder was never just mine. It started with a little toy ladder. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing expensive. Nothing that looked as though it could change a life. It was simply a tiny ladder that found its way into our home and onto the kitchen bench. At first, I thought of it as a symbol of moving upward, a little reminder of progress, promotion, and the possibility that things could get better. I had no idea that this small object would eventually lead me to a much bigger question. Could a simple symbol change the way we see our lives? In my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder, I told the story of how the ladder first appeared. The idea began almost playfully. What if this was the year of the ladder? I placed a small toy ladder on a friend's birthday cake with a simple message: may this be a year of rising higher. The ladder eventually came home with us and found a permanent place above the fruit bowl on our kitchen bench. We walked past it every day. It was always there, and because it was always there, we couldn't help but notice it. Then something strange happened. Ladders began appearing in our lives. Tradespeople arrived to repair our roof. Later, After a major storm damaged our garage ceiling, there seemed to be ladders everywhere. Repair workers, electricians, and tradespeople all working around our home. Was the little toy ladder responsible? I couldn't say. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe focusing on ladders simply made us notice them more. Maybe our attention had changed. Maybe our expectations had changed. Or maybe there was something about intention and awareness that we didn't fully understand. Eventually, we decided to take the experiment a step further. We put a $50 note on top of the toy ladder. The little ladder had now become a symbol of prosperity. My first book explored whether something so simple could influence what we noticed, what we expected, and how we moved through our lives. But writing it led directly to a much bigger question. What if your ladder isn't just yours? Imagine putting a little ladder on your kitchen bench tomorrow with a $50 note on top. You look at it. You walk past it. You see it when you make your morning coffee, when you come home, and before you go to bed. Perhaps you smile. Perhaps you think about prosperity. Perhaps you think about a dream you've been carrying for years. Perhaps you simply think, something better is possible for me. But now imagine something else. Imagine that at that exact moment, somewhere on the other side of the world, another person is looking at their ladder too. They don't know you. You don't know them. You may never meet. Their life may be completely different from yours. But they have a ladder. And you have a ladder. Suddenly, your little object means something different. It isn't just a symbol of your future. It has become a symbol of participation. You are no longer simply doing something for yourself. You are part of something other people are doing, too. There is a big difference between saying, I am believing for prosperity, and saying, we are creating a community where people consciously think about prosperity, possibility, and a better future together. The second idea doesn't require everyone to have the same dream. Your dream might be a new home. Someone else might be paying off debt, starting a business, reaching a goal in sport, or simply wanting to feel that life can become better than it is today. The dreams can be different. The circumstances can be different. The people can be different. But the symbol can be shared. The physical ladder hasn't changed, it's still tiny. The $50 note hasn't changed. But the meaning has expanded from my intention to my intention plus our shared awareness. A symbol can be very small physically and very large in meaning. A wedding ring is small. A flag is only a piece of fabric. A cross can be made from 2 pieces of wood. Yet people attach enormous meaning to these simple objects. The ladder works the same way. It doesn't have to be expensive or beautiful. What matters is what it represents to you. When you see your ladder, don't just think, this is my symbol. Think, somewhere someone else has one too. Because perhaps the ladder was never just about climbing higher. Perhaps it was always about discovering that we don't have to climb alone. Chapter 2. From my ladder to our ladder. In the beginning, the ladder was personal. It sat in my home. I saw it every day. It reminded me of my own hopes, my own possibilities, and my own desire to move higher. And there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is where this whole idea began. A small object can become a powerful personal reminder simply because we give it meaning and keep it where we can see it. In the original ladder experiment, the little ladder became part of our everyday environment, and eventually, the $50 note was placed on top as a symbol of prosperity. When you first put up your ladder, you might naturally think about yourself. You might think, I want more money, or I want to move to the next level, or I want my business to grow. Or perhaps you simply look at the $50 and think, I am open to greater prosperity. That's personal, and that's important. Your ladder gives you something physical to look at while you're thinking about something you can't yet see. Your future is invisible. Your dream is invisible. Your next opportunity is invisible. But the ladder isn't. It sits there in front of you, a tiny physical reminder of something you want to experience in your life. The environment around us can become a constant reminder of who we are becoming. But what if your ladder reminds you of other people too? Imagine walking into your kitchen tomorrow morning. You see your ladder. You see the $50 note. You think about prosperity. But then you remember this: somewhere else in the world, someone else has a ladder too. Maybe they're looking at theirs in London. Maybe someone in New York has one beside their computer. Maybe someone in Auckland has placed one on their bookshelf. Maybe someone in Canada has put one on their kitchen counter. Suddenly, your ladder has acquired another meaning. It isn't just saying, I am believing for something. It's saying, I am participating. We are used to thinking about prosperity as an individual pursuit: my money, my business, my house, my future. But human beings also have another powerful need: belonging. We like knowing that other people understand what we're doing. We like knowing that we're not the only person hoping, trying, or imagining something better. Worldwide awareness doesn't mean that everyone has to want the same outcome. Your dream belongs to you. Perhaps you want financial freedom, or to buy a home, or to travel, or to succeed in sport, or simply to have more choices in your life. Your ladder can represent whatever prosperity means to you. The $50 note gives us a common symbol. The ladder gives us a common symbol. But the dream behind the ladder can be completely personal. We can be united by a symbol without being identical in our dreams. There is a profound shift when moving from I believe to we believe. The first statement is personal. The second creates a community. Imagine thousands of people independently placing ladders in their homes. They don't need to know one another directly. But they know there are others doing this too. That knowledge changes the meaning of the symbol. Your ladder now carries two clear messages. Message 1: something better is possible for me. Message 2: I am not the only one believing in possibility. This isn't a competition. There is no leaderboard, and your ladder isn't a scoreboard. Someone else's success doesn't mean you failed. Your ladder is simply a reminder, an invitation to participate in something much larger than a single household. One ladder represents one person. Many ladders represent a community. Thousands of ladders represent a worldwide awareness. My ladder has become our ladder. Chapter 3. Welcome to Worldwide Awareness. You have read about the ladder. You have thought about what it might mean to have your own. And perhaps you've already imagined where you would put one in your home. Now comes the simplest part of all. You are invited to join. There is no application, no membership fee, no test you have to pass, and no requirement to prove that anything has happened. You simply have to decide, I want to participate. And then put up your ladder. The Worldwide Awareness Invitation. Step 1. Find a little ladder. Find a toy ladder that you can place somewhere in your home. It doesn't have to be expensive or perfect. It can be a miniature ladder, a dollhouse ladder, or a craft ladder. The ladder is a symbol. Its physical size isn't important. Step 2. Put $50 at the top. The shared symbol of worldwide awareness is a ladder with $50 at the top. You can use a real $50 note if you are comfortable doing so. But you don't have to. If you don't want to leave money sitting around or traveling, you can use a photograph of a $50 note, a printed picture, or a drawing. The purpose isn't to prove you own $50, it is to create a visible symbol of prosperity and participation. Step 3. Put it somewhere you will see it. Place it on your kitchen bench, beside your computer, on a desk, bookshelf, or nightstand. You don't need a complicated ritual or an hour of staring at it. Just let it become part of your environment so you walk past, notice it, and remember, I'm part of worldwide awareness. Step 4. Make it yours. The ladder and $50 are the shared symbol. But you are free to add a personal meaning, a tiny symbol representing a dream, like a medal for sport, a little house for a new home, or a written word like freedom or opportunity. The ladder connects us. Your personal symbol expresses you. Step 5. Know that you're not alone. When you see your ladder, think about the community. You might say to yourself, somewhere in the world, another person has a ladder too. That simple realization transforms my ladder into our ladder. Step 6. Tell us you've joined. Go to the review section of this book and announce your participation. I'm joining Worldwide Awareness. My ladder is up. If you feel comfortable, share your location, for example, ladder up in Brisbane, Australia, or my ladder is up in London, UK. When the reviews begin to accumulate, they form the worldwide ladder map. It creates a living, visible registry showing that people in different parts of the world have chosen to participate together. You don't have to share your location if you prefer privacy. You can quietly set up your ladder in your own home and simply enjoy knowing that others are doing the same thing. This isn't a competition, and there is no leaderboard. Think about what happens when you put your ladder up. Before you do it, you're reading about an idea. After you do it, you're participating in it. Welcome to Worldwide Awareness. Your ladder is up. Chapter 4. Your ladder is a consciousness relay tower. Imagine that every participant's home contained a tiny tower. Not a tower made of steel or concrete, and not one covered in wires, antennas, or flashing lights. A tower made from something much simpler, a little toy ladder and a $50 note. And imagine that every time someone looked at their ladder, they remembered, I am part of something bigger than myself. That is the idea behind the consciousness relay tower. Your ladder doesn't literally transmit thoughts through the air, nor does it send an electronic signal to another person's counter. It doesn't need electricity or Wi-Fi. Its purpose is far more direct. It reminds you. And because you know that thousands of other people share this exact same symbol, that daily reminder becomes connected to a global network. A physical relay tower helps connect people across vast distances. When you use a mobile phone to speak to someone on the other side of the world, you don't need to understand every technical frequency inside the network. You simply know that you are connected. Your ladder creates that exact same experience through shared meaning. When you see it, it relays a clear idea back to you. I am part of worldwide awareness. You don't have to make the ladder perform, stare at it for hours, or execute a complicated daily ritual. The symbol simply exists in your space. You walk past it, you see it, and you remember. That's enough. The original experiment showed how a simple object can anchor our attention and prime our mind to notice new opportunities. Now we are expanding that anchor from a purely personal goal to a shared connection. When you walk into your kitchen tomorrow morning and see your ladder, you might think about prosperity, possibility, or your personal goals. But then add one more layer of awareness. I am not doing this alone. If you placed a photo of your dream house on a wall, it would serve as a personal reminder. But when thousands of people intentionally display the exact same symbol, the object gains a second dimension. It transforms from a private visual anchor into a signpost of belonging. Does a plastic ladder physically alter radio waves around the planet? We don't need to invent complex theories to explain what is happening. What we can observe is simple and practical. Human attention shapes human behavior. When you return your focus to possibility, your expectations shift. When your expectations shift, you act differently. You notice opportunities you previously overlooked, you initiate conversations, and you take steps forward that you might have otherwise postponed. The relay tower operates inside your own mind. You see the ladder. The ladder triggers the reminder. You remember your intention and your global connection. Your awareness influences your next action. The ladder doesn't climb the stairs for you. You do the work. The ladder simply serves as the daily reminder that you are reaching for something higher, and that somewhere in the world, someone else is doing the exact same thing at that very second. Chapter 5. Celebrating together. There is a subtle trap in traditional personal growth. When you set a goal entirely by yourself, it is easy for your daily practice to carry a quiet undercurrent of stress. Is it working yet? Why hasn't it happened for me? Am I doing this right? The symbol on your counter can accidentally become a silent indicator of waiting, pressuring you to manufacture results through sheer willpower. Worldwide awareness changes that dynamic completely. By shifting from an isolated effort to collective participation, the underlying tension dissolves. You are no longer standing over your kitchen counter, trying to force a personal outcome in a vacuum. Instead, you are standing in a global room, holding a focus together with thousands of other participants. This shift replaces performance anxiety with a far more open, receptive state of mind, celebration. Instead of viewing prosperity as a limited resource that you must individually capture, you begin to see it as a shared frequency. You have the opportunity to not only celebrate alone in your own home, but to celebrate alongside a larger group. When someone in London posts that they noticed a new business opportunity, or someone in Toronto shares a sudden moment of clarity, their progress doesn't diminish yours. In a connected network, one person's win becomes evidence of possibility for everyone watching the grid. When you remove the self-imposed pressure of trying to make it work, your mind naturally becomes more relaxed and observant. And a relaxed mind is far more likely to notice the subtle open doors, coincidences, and ideas that stress usually blocks. With that stress removed, a new question naturally takes its place. What if this happens quicker than I thought? Most of us are conditioned to believe that meaningful progress must be slow, difficult, and exhausting. We build long timelines around our expectations. But when you align your attention with the synchronized worldwide movement, you challenge those old assumptions. Opening yourself to rapid momentum doesn't require forced effort. It simply requires dropping the habit of expecting delay. What if an unexpected conversation happens today? What if an idea clicks this afternoon? What if the timeline you projected for your goals is far longer than it actually needs to be? When you look at your ladder today, don't ask if it's working. Smile, remember the thousands of people holding that exact same visual anchor alongside you, and allow yourself to wonder how fast things can shift when you step out of isolation and into collective momentum. Chapter 6. One symbol, infinite meanings. When you look across a crowd of thousands of people, no two faces are identical. Their origins, stories, daily routines, and aspirations are completely unique. Yet, when thousands of people gather around a single shared emblem, like a national flag or a wedding band, that tiny uniform object binds everyone together instantly. The power lies in the balance. The symbol remains identical, while the meaning behind it stays completely personal. This is the foundational design of worldwide awareness. The physical anchor must stay identical across every household. A small toy ladder paired with a $50 note, or its printed equivalent. Keeping the visible design uniform preserves the visual signal, connecting the global network. When you look at your setup, you know with absolute certainty that someone in Singapore or Sydney is looking at the exact same physical arrangement. While the object on your counter is universal, the internal intention you attach to it belongs entirely to you. For one person, the latter represents breaking free from debt and gaining financial breathing room. For another, it represents building a thriving business, expanding a team, or launching a creative project. For an athlete, it symbolizes reaching a new level of physical performance or sporting success. For a family, it might simply represent finding a new home or experiencing greater peace of mind. We do not need to share the same personal outcomes to participate in the same experiment. In fact, requiring everyone to want the exact same thing would destroy the organic nature of the movement. Your dream does not need to look like anyone else's, nor does your timeline need to match theirs. By holding a uniform symbol, we create a global room where everyone can stand together without giving up their individuality. The $50 note and toy ladder connect us. Your personal vision gives it life. When you glance at your ladder today, appreciate the dual nature of what you are looking at. An identical node in a global movement, carrying an infinite meaning that is uniquely yours. Chapter 7. The Review Section, Activation. A movement requires a central meeting place. Traditionally, uniting a global group meant creating complex websites, managing login portals, or charging subscription fees for private forums. But worldwide awareness is designed to be completely open, zero cost, and instantly accessible to anyone holding this book. To make the global grid visible, we use an existing piece of public infrastructure, the bookstore review section. When you open the review section of this book, you are not just reading opinions on the prose. You are looking at a living, breathing roll call. You are looking at the worldwide ladder map. By posting a simple line in the review section, you drop your pin on the global map. You transition from an isolated reader sitting in a room into an active, visible participant in the experiment. How to activate your node. The process is intentionally simple. Set up your symbol, place your toy ladder and $50 note or printed image in a visible spot in your home. Open the review section, navigate to where you purchased or read this book. Declare your presence, leave a quick one-line message confirming your setup. I'm joining worldwide awareness. My ladder is up. I'm in. Ladder up in Brisbane, Australia. Ladder up in London, UK, ready for the momentum. You do not need to write a lengthy literary critique. You do not need to explain your personal financial situation, share your private goals, or prove that a specific result has occurred. Sharing your location is completely optional. Use only what feels comfortable for you. The goal of the review section is simple: participation. When new readers pick up this book and scroll down to the review section, they won't just see commentary. They will see point after point, city after city, country after country. They will see undeniable proof that thousands of ordinary people have quietly chosen to hold space for possibility together. Your single review is the declaration that turns my ladder into our ladder. You're in. Drop your pin on the map. Chapter 8. The First Wave and the Worldwide Map. Every major movement begins with a small, conscious group willing to go first. Before a global grid can stretch across thousands of cities, it relies on an initial cohort to drop the very first pins. This is the first wave, the early participants who set up their toy ladders, place their $50 notes, and step into the experiment while the map is still being drawn. Imagine opening the review section of this book in its earliest days. At first, there are only a handful of entries. Then, a few dozen. I'm in. Ladder up in Brisbane, Australia. Node activated in London, UK. Joining from Texas, USA. Ladder up beside my desk in Toronto, Canada. As those first 100 declarations register, something remarkable happens to the reader experience. The concept transitions from an intriguing theory on paper into an observable reality. You are no longer just imagining people in other countries holding the same. The worldwide ladder map isn't a complex digital dashboard or a corporate database. It is a decentralized visual network powered by individual human action. Each entry in the review section functions like a tiny light switching on across a global map. When you join the first wave, your declaration carries unique weight. You aren't just joining a pre-existing crowd. You are actively building the foundation that gives the next reader the confidence to participate. Your single line in the reviews tells every person who comes after you. The grid is active. You are not alone. Being part of the first wave means choosing to step out of passive reading and into active demonstration. You set up your symbol, you drop your pin, and you help launch the collective momentum for everyone who follows. Chapter 9. The Worldwide Ladder Journal. To get the most out of worldwide awareness, you need to change how you observe your daily life. Instead of treating the ladder as a high-pressure test, where you constantly check whether a miracle has arrived, frame the practice as an observational experiment. You are not trying to force an outcome through intense mental effort. You are simply stepping back, keeping your symbol visible, and paying attention to how your awareness and environment begin to shift. The simplest way to track this process is by keeping a worldwide ladder journal. This doesn't require hours of reflective writing or complex tracking spreadsheets. A small notebook or a quick note app on your phone will do. The goal is simply to record brief, daily observations as you move through the experiment. What to record in your journal? Subtle shifts in focus. Did you catch yourself thinking about solutions instead of problems today? Did your mood or expectations feel noticeably lighter? Unusual coincidences and clues. Did a specific topic, resource, or person cross your path unexpectedly? Did you happen to notice ladders appearing around your city? Open doors and ideas. Did a creative thought pop into your head while passing your ladder? Did you get an urge to reach out to an old contact, apply for something, or start a project you had been postponing? Collective connection. How did knowing that thousands of others are looking at the exact same symbol affect your state of mind today? The magic of journaling isn't that writing in a book creates opportunities. It's that writing trains your reticular activating system, ROS, to register them. When you don't write things down, small coincidences and sudden ideas are easily dismissed as random noise. But when you track them daily, patterns emerge. You start to see that your awareness is expanding, your expectations are rising, and you are taking actions you wouldn't have taken a month ago. Don't judge the day by whether a giant check appeared in the mail. Record the small shifts. The shift in thought leads to a shift in choice. The shift in choice leads to a new outcome. Use your journal to capture the story of your awareness unfolding day by day. Chapter 10. Your ladder is waiting. The book is almost complete, but the experiment is just beginning. Everything you have read up to this point, the science of visual anchors, the power of shared intention, the simplicity of a toy ladder and a $50 note, has brought you to a single quiet moment of choice. You can close these pages, think to yourself, that was an interesting concept, and return to your usual daily routine. Or you can stand up, find a small ladder, place your $50 note at the top, and step into the grid. Imagine walking into your room, your kitchen, or your workspace a few minutes from now. You set down your symbol. It sits quietly on the counter, tiny, simple, completely unassuming. Then you take a breath and pause. You realize that by setting up that physical object, you have done far more than place a plastic toy on a desk. You have activated your personal node in a global network. You have linked your daily attention to a worldwide frequency of expectation, prosperity, and shared possibility. At this very second, somewhere on the other side of the planet, someone else is standing in front of their counter doing the exact same thing. They might be brewing morning coffee in London, wrapping up a busy day in New York, or starting their evening in Brisbane. You don't know their name, and you may never cross paths. But through a simple, shared symbol, you are bound together in the exact same pursuit of a better future. You are no longer climbing in isolation. You don't have to carry the weight of your goals completely by yourself anymore. Every time you glance at your ladder, let it speak two simple truths back to you. Something better is possible for me. I am not doing this alone. Now the final step belongs to you. Place your ladder. Put your $50 at the top, or set up your printed picture. Walk past it, smile, and feel the momentum of thousands of participants standing in the room right alongside you. Then, head to the review section. Drop your pin. Declare your presence. I'm in. Ladder up, your city, country. Welcome to the movement. Welcome to collective momentum. Welcome to worldwide awareness. Your ladder is waiting. Chapter 11. Thomas Troward, the logical architect of thought. Note, this chapter is a summary adapted from my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. Long before modern neuroscience began studying visual anchors and the reticular activating system, Ross, an English judge serving in British India named Thomas Troward, was breaking down manifestation with mathematical precision. Troward, who became one of the foundational minds of the New Thought movement in the early 1900s, approached metaphysics not through vague mysticism, but through strict logic. In his classic work, The Edinburgh Lectures on Mental Science, he laid out a simple law of cause and effect. Thought is the primary cause, and physical circumstances are the ultimate effect. He taught that the universal mind operates like a boundless ocean of intelligence, and our individual mind acts as a focal point or drawing board. When we hold a clear mental blueprint, that universal mind responds directly to our concentrated focus. When you place a toy ladder on your counter with a $50 note, Troward would describe that physical symbol as a mental blueprint made visible. It keeps your internal architecture focused on a single frequency: prosperity, progress, and possibility. The architect who resolved a dispute with mental harmony. To understand how Troward's principles apply when connecting with a larger group, look at the story of Marco, an architect in Rome. Marco was embroiled in a bitter, high-stakes dispute with a major client. The architectural project was completely deadlocked, legal threats were circulating, and the daily stress was overwhelming. Applying Troward's principle that all minds share a common universal mind, Marco realized that fighting the client externally was useless. He had to change the mental blueprint first. Instead of replaying the anger in his head each evening, Marco began using his imagination as a drawing board. He sat quietly and mentally blessed the situation. He affirmed, "The universal mind works through both of us for a perfect, harmonious solution. All conflict is dissolved in mutual respect." He held a vivid, clear image of meeting the client, shaking hands warmly, and agreeing on a new path forward. A few days later, the client unexpectedly called. His tone had shifted completely. He suggested a meeting, during which a fresh, creative compromise emerged that neither had considered before. The impasse vanished, and the project resumed smoothly. By cultivating a clear inner blueprint of unity, Marco shifted the external reality, connecting the architecture to worldwide awareness. Marco's story carries a profound lesson for our global experiment. When you set up your toy ladder, you are creating a mental blueprint for your own life. But when thousands of participants set up the exact same symbol across the globe, we are no longer just individual architects. We are participating in a shared architecture of thought. Troward proved that when you hold a blueprint of harmony and progress, the universal mind responds. Knowing that thousands of people in London, Brisbane, New York, and Toronto are holding that exact same visual blueprint at this very moment expands your personal broadcast into a global network. Your ladder is your blueprint. Your focus is the cause. The shift in your life and our shared world is the effect. Chapter 12. Florence Scovel Shinn, the Master of Affirmation. Note, this chapter is a summary adapted from my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. If Thomas Troward was the logical architect of thought, Florence Scovel Shinn was its bold speaker. An American artist and teacher whose 1925 classic The Game of Life and How to Play It remains a landmark in spiritual literature, Shinn taught that our words are not merely passive commentary, they are active commands. Shinn understood life not as a battle to be fought, but as a game governed by spiritual laws. She emphasized three core principles. The spoken word: your declarations frame your expectations and invite your reality. Non-resistance: what you resist persists. Fighting a negative circumstance only fuels it with your attention. Intuitive action: following inner hunches and trusting that there is a divine plan for your abundance. When you place a toy ladder on your bench alongside a $50 note, you are taking a physical step of non-resistance. You aren't fighting scarcity. You are quietly declaring, "I am open to possibility." The shop owner who used non-resistance. To see Shinn's principles in action, look at the story of Elias, the owner of a small independent bookstore. Elias was filled with dread when a massive corporate chain store opened directly across the street. Fearing bankruptcy, he spent weeks consuming himself with anger, complaining to customers, and obsessing over the competition. Unsurprisingly, his foot traffic plummeted. Realizing that fighting the competition was destroying his business, Elias decided to apply Scovel Shinn's law of non-resistance. He stopped criticizing the chain store and began mentally blessing it, affirming, "My supply comes from the infinite. My business attracts its perfect customers, and what is mine cannot be taken from me." As he released his resentment, his mind cleared. Instead of obsessing over the corporate giant, he followed a hunch to innovate. He transformed his shop into a community hub, hosting local author nights, cozy book clubs, and personalized recommendation sessions. The result? His store didn't just survive, it experienced its most profitable year on record. By dropping resistance, Elias opened the channel for his own unique success. Spoken words in a global network. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that when a person speaks a statement of faith, it alters their environment. This is precisely why Step 6 of the Worldwide Awareness process, posting your declaration in the review section, is so vital. When you type, "I'm in ladder up in London," or "My ladder is up in Brisbane," you are making a clear, written statement of participation. You aren't complaining about past struggles or resisting hard times. You are declaring your place in a worldwide community of possibility. When thousands of people make that same declaration simultaneously, those spoken and written words form an undeniable chorus of shared expectation. Don't resist where you are today. Place your ladder, speak your declaration, and step into the game. Chapter 13. Neville Goddard. The feeling is the secret. Note, this chapter is a summary adapted from my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. If Thomas Troward gave us the logical blueprint and Florence Scovel Shinn gave us the spoken declaration, Neville Goddard gave us the inner engine of manifestation, the feeling. Born in Barbados and teaching throughout the mid-20th century, Goddard taught that imagination is the only true reality. His message was deceptively simple: the feeling is the secret. He insisted that we must live in the end, mentally and emotionally assuming the state of the wish already fulfilled, rather than worrying about how it will happen. When you assume the emotional state of your goal, your subconscious mind sets off a bridge of incidents, a natural, unforced sequence of events that brings that internal state into physical reality. The aspiring writer who saw his book on the shelf. Consider the story of Robert, an aspiring author who had finished a draft of his novel but was paralyzed by self-doubt. He was convinced no major publishing house would ever accept his work. Instead of fighting his fears, Robert applied Goddard's core technique. He lived in the end. He walked into a local bookstore, stood in the fiction aisle, and closed his eyes. In his mind, he vividly pictured his book sitting on the shelf. He imagined reaching out, touching the glossy cover, smelling the fresh ink, and feeling the profound quiet pride of being a published author. Every night before falling asleep, he replayed that exact scene, feeling the weight of the book in his hands, until the feeling of accomplishment became completely natural to him. Because he had already accepted the outcome emotionally, submitting his manuscript no longer felt terrifying. It felt like the next logical step across his bridge of incidents. Months later, a publisher accepted his book. When he finally walked back into that same bookstore, he reached out and touched his book on the shelf, in the exact physical spot he had imagined. Living in the end with a global network. Goddard's principle is why the toy ladder and $50 note work so effectively as a visual anchor. When you walk past your counter and see that ladder, it isn't meant to trigger a feeling of wanting. It is designed to trigger the feeling of having. It is a physical reminder to assume the state of prosperity now. When you pair that daily practice with worldwide awareness, the emotional resonance multiplies. You aren't just imagining your own progress in a vacuum. You are aware that thousands of others across the world are standing in front of their own ladders, assuming that exact same feeling of possibility. You are all living in the end together. Feel the reality of your goal today. Let the ladder remind you that the outcome is already taking shape across a global bridge of incidents. Chapter 14. Joseph Murphy. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Note, this chapter is a summary adapted from my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. Building on the foundation of thoughts, words, and feelings, Dr. Joseph Murphy introduced a precise mechanism for how manifestation operates, the subconscious mind. An Irish-born author and minister whose 1963 classic The Power of Your Subconscious Mind remains one of the most widely read self-help books in history, Murphy taught that the subconscious mind is an unbiased, powerful execution engine. It does not argue, analyze, or judge. It simply accepts whatever seed is planted in it by the conscious mind and brings it to harvest. Murphy highlighted that the subconscious mind is most receptive when the conscious mind is relaxed, particularly in the state just before falling asleep. By impressing clear images, affirmations, and intentions onto the subconscious during these quiet windows, you reprogram your inner expectations, which then project outward into physical reality. Attracting the perfect home with detailed imaging. A classic example of Murphy's teaching is the story of the Miller family, who were living in a cramped rental apartment. They desperately wanted to buy their first home, but every house in their preferred neighborhood seemed far beyond their financial reach. Instead of accepting defeat, the family decided to collectively impress a clear blueprint onto their subconscious minds. Every evening before bed, they sat together and vividly pictured their ideal home. They didn't just imagine a generic house, they focused on sensory details: the color of the front door, the sunlight streaming through the living room window, the sound of their children playing in the backyard, and the deep feeling of security and warmth. They repeated this ritual nightly, allowing these peaceful, detailed images to be the final thoughts entering their subconscious before sleep. Within a few months, a house appeared on the market in their ideal neighborhood. It had been overlooked by other buyers due to poor online photos, but when the Millers stepped inside, it matched almost every detail of their evening visualizations. The price had just been reduced, placing it unexpectedly within their budget. They secured the home smoothly, having drawn it forth through a shared subconscious impression. Programming for a collective shift. Dr. Murphy's principles reveal why visual anchors are so remarkably effective. When you place a toy ladder on your counter where you see it throughout the day, it repeatedly sends subtle, effortless suggestions to your subconscious mind. You don't have to force intense concentration. The simple sight of the ladder continuously plants seeds of growth, progress, and financial flow. When thousands of people around the world practice this simultaneously, we are doing more than individual subconscious programming. We are aligning our daily focus toward a shared expectation of abundance. Let your ladder serve as your daily reminder. Impress the image of prosperity on your mind. Allow your subconscious to work quietly in the background and trust the process to unfold. Chapter 15. Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now. Note: this chapter is a summary adapted from my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. While the preceding masters taught us how to shape our thoughts, words, feelings, and subconscious mind, spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle provides the foundation that allows all of it to work without friction. Presence. Born in Germany and author of groundbreaking works like The Power of Now and A New Earth, Tolle is not a traditional manifestation teacher. Instead, he addresses the hidden engine that so often sabotages our desires: the compulsive noise, anxiety, and impatience of the egoic mind. Tolle teaches that true power is found only in the present moment. When you are constantly worrying about whether your goals will manifest in the future, you are acting from a state of inner scarcity and resistance. But when you step out of the mental chatter and anchor yourself in the now, you dissolve that friction. From a state of presence, clarity emerges, resistance vanishes, and inspired action flows naturally. The artist who unleashed creativity through stillness. A striking illustration of Tolle's teaching is the story of Cécile, a painter in Paris who found herself trapped in a severe creative block. Desperate to produce work for an upcoming gallery showcase, she was consumed by self-doubt, pressure, and incessant mental noise. The harder she forced herself to paint, the more lifeless her canvas appeared. Realizing that her anxiety was rooted in future expectations, Cécile turned to Tolle's practice of inner body awareness. Before touching a paintbrush, She began sitting quietly in her studio, closing her eyes, and shifting her attention away from her thoughts and onto the physical sensation of her breath and the life within her hands. She stopped trying to force an outcome and simply allowed herself to be completely present in the room. As the mental noise subsided, a profound sense of calm took over. When she opened her eyes, she wasn't painting out of desperation or fear. She was painting from a place of effortless flow. Ideas began to move through her intuitively. Her art became vibrant, authentic, and alive, not because she tried harder, but because she stepped out of her own way and allowed creative intelligence to express itself through stillness. The ultimate anchor of presence. This brings our journey full circle. A toy ladder sitting on your kitchen counter is, at its highest level, an anchor to the present moment. Whenever your eyes catch that small symbol throughout a busy day, it acts as a gentle reminder to pause, take a deep breath, and come back to the now. You aren't checking it frantically to see if your life has transformed overnight. You are using it to center yourself in the quiet awareness that right now, in this exact second, you are safe, connected, and supported. When thousands of participants across the globe look at their ladders today, we aren't just sending out wishes for the future, we are grounding ourselves in present moment awareness together. Place your ladder. Take a breath. Step into the present moment, and let the rest unfold naturally. Chapter 16. A final word. When I placed that tiny toy ladder on a friend's birthday cake at the start of the year, I had no grand scheme. I didn't foresee book chapters, a global readership, or thousands of people setting up identical visual anchors on kitchen counters around the world. It was simply a playful wish for someone I cared about. May this be a year of rising higher. Yet, as you have read across these pages, simple intentions carry an extraordinary ripple effect. We have journeyed through the logical blueprints of Thomas Troward, the spoken declarations of Florence Scovel Shinn, the deep emotional states of Neville Goddard, the subconscious programming of Joseph Murphy, and the quiet, grounding presence of Eckhart Tolle. Each master offered a different lens on a single, universal truth: what you focus on expands. By setting up your toy ladder with your $50 note, you have taken that truth out of the realm of philosophy and placed it squarely into your daily environment. You now hold something far more powerful than a simple self-help technique. You are part of a shared global field. Whenever you glance at your ladder while making morning coffee or packing up after a long day, remember that someone in London, New York, Tokyo, or a small quiet town thousands of miles away is looking at theirs too. You are bound together not by proximity, but by a shared commitment to expect better, reach higher, and support one another's growth. Don't overcomplicate the road ahead. You don't need to force miracles or strain your mind with intense effort. Keep your anchor visible. Keep your journal simple. Trust your subconscious. Listen for those quiet, intuitive hunches, and remember to drop into the present moment whenever the noise of life gets loud. I want to personally thank you for taking this step and joining our collective movement. Your presence here strengthens the grid for everyone else climbing alongside you. Drop your pin, declare your city, keep your eyes open for the unexpected doors about to open, and above all else, enjoy the climb. With immense gratitude and quiet expectation. Tony Egar. Worldwide Awareness. The toy ladder that connects us. Introduction. At the start of the year, a simple idea came to me. What if I called this the year of the ladder? It sounded playful, like a symbol of progress or a quiet wish for promotion. I mentioned it to a few friends and family members, and they mostly responded with mild amusement or polite curiosity. Still, the idea lingered. Then, on a friend's birthday, I did something unusual. I placed a small toy ladder on her cake. It was meant to be light-hearted, but it carried a quiet message. May this be a year of rising higher. She liked the idea. That little ladder eventually came back home with us and found its place on our kitchen counter, right above the fruit bowl, just sitting there, visible every day. What happened next was completely unexpected. Subtle changes began to unfold. Oddly enough, ladders began showing up at just the right times. Then a major storm hit, bringing even more ladders into our world. Repair workers, tradespeople, and electricians all working around our home. All the work was done for free, because of insurance. Was this just a string of coincidences? Or was something unseen responding to our quiet intentions? Could a simple object hold the power to focus energy, attract change, or open hidden doors? And then, money manifested. That experiment became the heart of my first book, Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder. In those pages, I opened the door into the fascinating world of manifestation, exploring how people throughout history have harnessed their imagination to bring about desired realities. I set out to study the old and new teachers of manifestation, diving into the profound wisdom and timeless principles of 5 influential masters: Thomas Troward, Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, and Eckhart Tolle. Through their teachings, we learned how a simple visual anchor, a miniature ladder paired with a $50 note, could prime our attention, shift our expectations, and train our mind to tune into opportunity. From a private practice to a global movement. Manifest Money with a Toy Ladder was about what happens when you change your focus. It was an intimate practice designed for your own kitchen counter. But after that book went out into the world, a much bigger, far more inspiring question emerged. What happens when thousands of us use the exact same symbol at the exact same time? That is where this book begins. We are taking the foundation from the first experiment and expanding it into a collective experience. The ladder on your counter is no longer just a private anchor for your personal goals. It is your personal node in a global network. Welcome to Worldwide Awareness, the toy ladder that connects us. It's time to discover what happens when we stop climbing in isolation and realize we were never meant to do this alone. Tony Egar. Chapter 1. The ladder was never just mine. It started with a little toy ladder. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing expensive. Nothing that looked as though it could change a life. It was simply a tiny ladder that found its way into our home and onto the kitchen bench. At first, I thought of it as a symbol of moving upward, a little reminder of progress, promotion, and the possibility that things could get better.